All right, and then our second author is Izzy Brown from Nutrition, Food Science, and Packaging.
That was pretty good. Hi. I've rehearsed, but I'm going to work on this. I created the Boathouse Road Cookbook, and it's a fundraiser for a dear friend of mine named Fred Dueling. And so I kind of has nothing to do with academia, except the method of publication. I think has great application in academia. And so I want to tell you how I did it, but before I tell you how, I want to tell you why, because then it will make sense. How. Some of you have the pleasure of knowing Shirley Reiki. She's wonderful.
Dubious.
But as you know, she is trustworthy, genuine, tenacious, and a bit gritty. So is my friend Fred. Fred Dueling has been a figure on Boathouse Road for about 50 years, and he started in the 60s as a national team rower and has continued as a mentor and a coach. And at Thanksgiving of 2010, he ran his 51st consecutive turkey trot cross-country, 6-mile cross-country race, which is a tradition along Boathouse Row. And it's a competition between all the boathouses. And if you don't know Boathouse Row, there's 11 boathouses in a row that are a historic landmark. And it's a very competitive environment between boathouses and also rowing in general. And Fred was 65-ish when he did the 51st. And that's the longest running consecutive participation competition in the nation. I had no idea. And 3 weeks later, he had a tragic fall at the boathouse and fell down the stairs while he was decorating the boathouse for the holidays. And he, among other injuries, suffered a C5 spinal cord injury, so he's paralyzed from the diaphragm down.
Oh.
He has diaphragm. There was such an outpour of caring and wanting to contribute that I did the cookbook. So I solicited recipes from anyone who wanted to make a donation, and I compiled them. So it's kind of the sneaky way to get a publication, actually, because I didn't do much of the work. But that's why I did it. So how I did it was through Amazon.com. It's for $40. You can open an account through their Create Space service, and you have some limitations to what the book can look like. Like ideally, I would have had a long, skinny book having all the boathouses in a row, and that wasn't an option. You can do black and white or color on the inside. It's always a color, it's always soft bound, but you upload 2 PDFs, a cover and your material on the inside. And it's a print-on-demand book, which means every time someone places an order, they print it in that instant. So I can change my PDF anytime I want. So from an academic perspective, like in nutrition, where science is changing, theories are changing, recommendations, as you know, are changing daily about what you should and shouldn't eat. This makes perfect sense in an academic setting to use something that is very modifiable and you don't have tons of books that are out of date by the time they're published. The print-on-demand function has been very useful. The one recommendation I say is find yourself a great layout guide, because a PDF, I can save something as a PDF, that's about it. But I have a wonderful resource as a layout person, and he is wonderful, he is smart, he is flexible, and he was a wonder to work with for this book. And he is responsible for everything about the way it looks. So I'm happy to talk to you about him and give you his contact information. He's eager to take on these kinds of projects. Okay? All right?
Thank you, Izzy. It certainly shows kind of the value of technology now and publishing and not allowing things to take 2 or 3 year publishing cycles. So, and then our next author, as you can see right here, is Liz Cara. Sorry about that. Liz Cara from Occupational Therapy.
I just want you to know that this is the third edition, which looks different than the second edition. And I just received this, so there wasn't a copy out yet when you read this. So this is the third edition of Psychosocial Occupational Therapy, and essentially it's a book about occupational therapy and what occupational therapists do in the mental health world. And Anne McCrae and I wrote this book because we were sitting at a faculty meeting and something came around that said someone was looking for authors who would like to write a book. So we looked at each other and said, oh, let's write a book. And essentially, we wrote this because, we really did. We wrote this because in our classes, I taught the mental health class. She taught, at that time, the conditions course, mental health. There weren't any textbooks out in occupational therapy on this topic. So essentially, we wrote what we thought was missing for our class. And then I'd also been a clinician for 15 years before I started teaching, and I felt that I had a lot to say about what people do in occupational therapy. So we wanted to write a book that was a very practical book that talked about here's the practice of occupational therapy, here's what people do, here's the interventions they do in the clinic. So that's how we came to write it. And this edition I'm really excited about. I like the looks of it, for one thing, and I think it's a really great layout. So I'm happy about that. But I like it because there's some of the new chapters are just really good. We have chapters on service members, working in the field and crisis intervention, and also returning service members. We have really a good chapter on working in prison systems and the jail. A really great chapter on substance abuse and addiction, written by one of the authors who, of course, tells his personal story of it. And so there's just some really, really wonderful new chapters, and then very substantially in one of my new chapters on attachment. And then really substantially revised. So in working on the book, I think the rewards of it are that you see the final product, really. It's like, oh, I really did that. And I think that was great. And of course there's royalties that I think someone should mention. And you're not going to get rich on them, but you do get a check every year, and it's kind of nice to get that, because we all know how much our salaries are. So it helps. We work with a lot of really wonderful people. Find some really wonderful people who wrote the chapters for us. So it's really nice working with them, and I love working with people and kind of mentoring them. The kind of tips on writing, I found that I just really needed to write all the time. So I really couldn't take, and that's the way I write. I won't write for a while, and then I'll just press through and write everything. And then keep at it, and keep at it, and keep at it. Because for a book, that's pretty much what it feels like. You have to keep at it, keep at it, keep at it, keep at it, and write and rewrite and write and rewrite. I found the first edition, of course, was more difficult, and the next editions are less difficult because you have the framework and you have the chapters out there, and then you have many. Once the book's finished, you have many new ideas that you want to bring out. So. And with publishing in the new publishing world of electronic publishing, I actually think it's more work, that they expect more of you, and on one hand, and on the other hand, it's easier because you don't get these old galley proofs anymore in the mail, 5 million, this huge thing that you can't carry anymore, and have to use your pen to edit it. You do PDFs, so it's an easier job of editing. But I also think they require more work because they want you to do more on the instructor website. But that's another exciting part of the editing, is that you do have the website that we're hoping to have a dynamic website that we'll keep adding to, and that people will be able to actually buy individual chapters on the website. So we really like that. And the process I got out of writing this book, I have to truthfully, I felt that when I first started, it was kind of tedious to write a textbook, that it was a little more pedestrian. And I thought, oh, I want to be more creative. But you can't be. I mean, it's because it's a textbook. But the reward of it is that I actually like editing now. And I can't read a paper, a student paper, any paper, without editing it. And I like editing. There's something soothing to me now about it. And I feel like I've become a writer. And that when I started out 20 years ago teaching, I didn't think that I was a writer. And I feel like I have become a writer. And in fact, have another book in mind that's not a textbook, but that's a book on Diane Fossey. So that's the reward of it. You become what you do, essentially. That's what we would say in occupational therapy. So, thank you.
Thank you, Liz. We have Gong Chen from kinesiology.
Some sportswear, because I'm from kinesiology, and because I just finished demonstration at the wellness fair. So sorry, I'm not respecting the audience here. Thank you for the opportunity. The CASA organized for the authors. I'm pretty honored to be here to share my book with everybody else. It's the smallest book, the only book in Chinese. Basically, this book is for Chinese parents to protect their own kids, to work with their own kids, to educate their own kids about self-defense. Okay. In China, it's a one-child policy, so each family is allowed to have one kid only. So that kid becomes what? The heart of the family, the king, the queen, the most important thing, right? But even it's important for them to know how to protect themselves, but not real popular. Chinese parents still care more about English, piano, tennis, anything except self-defense. So what happened there is the background of this book. Back in 2010, between March and May, there were 4 events, I would say massacre here in China, 4 different schools. And the criminal jumped into kindergarten, elementary school, stabbing, chopping the kids. One of them, the kid, in 55 seconds, he killed about 13 kids. Hurt me. I already see that. I really care about my kids. I care about Chinese kids because that's where I was from. So I started writing the books. I've been doing this for a long time. I started writing up, and in the middle, the publisher called me and said, "Oh, this thing's getting a little ugly now. So can you write a book for Chinese parents so that they can share with the kids how to protect themselves?" And then after the four cases, what happened there? You don't see police officers on the street anymore. They're all in school, front, back, and outward. It's really, really ugly. So that's the book about, we talk about the basic principles, how to get people attention, awareness, and how to protect the kids different ways, and how to educate the kids to protect themselves in different situations. So this book. And I finished the book, started in March and finished in July. And I sent to them, they put some illustrations that are very nice because I've been trying to do this myself, but I'm not cut out to be artist. I tried once and it didn't work. So they find somebody to do the illustration for me in a very, very good, big seller right there. That's my continuous effort to do research, publishing self-defense. I've been doing this for a long, long time. Based on Dr. Penn. Self-defense is not an area. It's not a professional area in physical in kinesiology, but he turned this into an area of publication research. I'm very proud of this, and that's what my very interested in. And nobody's pushing me to do this anymore. I'm doing this on my own. I introduced the Beijing University, top 1 in China, use our curriculum word by word back in 2002, 10 years ago, and became popular in China. So we had a instructor training program back in China in 2004, nationwide Universal Self-Defense, and they started using our book here, translated in Chinese, and using our curriculum. And that's one thing I have been doing. I really enjoy it. That's why they know me. They call me right away for this. Another thing I've been doing with the support of the department is working with California Association of Health and Physical Education and Dance to train high school and middle school teachers, so they can teach self-defense. Since self-defense become, based on law, self-defense become a required subject in middle school and high school. Okay, so I've been trying this one. I wrote a book on for that too.